Okay, then let's get started. Yeah, hello, my name is Stephan Wolf. I'm Systems Engineer for Network and Security at VMware. And today I want to show you how to do micro-segmentation in a fast way. Before we go in, we will compare the traditional way of doing networking or micro-segmentation to the way how VMware is doing it with NSX. So, how we do micro-segmentation, let us say in the traditional way. Traditionally, we have our networking switches, we have the server on top of it, and on the servers, we run our VMs. And then we have to install firewalls. And when we install the firewalls, we have to redesign our network in order to trombone the traffic from the VMs that are sitting in the same VLAN and maybe on the same host. We cannot get the traffic into these hardware firewalls usually. So what we have to do, we have to redesign the network. So we have to create a lot of smaller VLANs. Then we have to create the appropriate IP address ranges in the VLANs. And then we need to create the port groups on the virtual distributed switch. When we created the port groups on the distributed switch, they're corresponding with these VLANs in their hardware switches. We have to re-IPing all the servers to get fit in these appropriate IP address networks. And this re-IPing the servers creates downtimes, business interruptions, and it also creates a lot of necessarily reconfiguration the server systems to say, hey, this is the server now here, and to reach the server you have to reach this IP address over there. So a lot of work, pre-work, redesigning the network usually before you can start the network segmentation with hardware firewalls. Clicker didn't work. Okay, anyway. And then you configure the hardware firewalls to get ready, and then you have to reroute the traffic through these hardware firewalls in order to that the hardware firewalls can get the chance to inspect, allow or deny the appropriate traffic. And then you can start to configuring your rule set, your firewall rule set manually. And that is a problem what customer facing when they just want to do a segmentation. They have to redesign their entire network usually. And this is a problem that want we address with NSX. And especially with NSX Intelligence, what we come later on, this is the key to, let us say, going faster in this journey when we want to say, hey, we can enable our firewall in front of every VM and then automatically create a rule set instead of manually. So how we do is, so usually we have the same setup in our data center. And what do you think? How many networking changes you have to make when you install NSX? 0. So you just install NSX, distributed firewall, and then you have to do no networking changes. So all the steps you see before with NSX, you don't have to do this. Then you can spread all the firewall rules that you're creating will be tied to the VM, regardless where they are. So you have no blind spots. We have a firewall in front of every virtual machine that is based on the VNIC of the virtual machine. There's placed the firewall outside the VM, but in front of every VM. So we can also isolate VMs that are in the same VLAN, in the same IP address range. We can cover this traffic at all. And we can easier automate it with groups and tags. So if you tag a VM, they can belong to a group, and they can also very easy tied to the appropriate rule set. And we can automatically kick out malicious flows. So if somebody made a port scan, then this port scan will be recognized, hey, somebody creates a flow to every port on my server. I don't want these 1,000 flows of the port scan in my rule set. So we kick them automatically out of the recommendation. And when the rule set is implemented, it will stay on the VM, and if the VM is moving to another host via vMotion, the rule set of the firewalls will stay at the VM, regardless where the VM is moving to which host. So, what is NSX Intelligence doing? So, the problem was in the past, we have the firewall of NSX, the distributed firewall, but we cannot get, let us say, an automatic rule set. So we have to build the rule set manually. So we do with NSX Intelligence, we see it in a demo, three things basically. We visualize the flows, we give you a firewall rule set recommendation, And we detect anonymous flows and malicious flows and kick them out of the recommendation so you get easily a valid rule set for your firewall. So I will have a demo here, so I will go through. So this is NSX Intelligence. This is the NSX Manager, so we don't have a separate UI or separate product. It's NSX Intelligence is a feature inside NSX. So we have here the NSX Manager, and we go to the Plan and Troubleshooting tab, and then we can go to Discover and Take Action, and we see all the appropriate servers and groups that we have, the virtual machines, and the group that we have pre-created maybe. And then we can select, for example, our application, which contains a web group, a database group, and an application group. And then we see all the flows between them. And then when you see these flows here, then we can say, okay, I want the flows of the last 12 hours, for example. We can go through these flows and see when we select this, we see the flows of the last 12 hours, and we see between the application server and the web server, the database server, one unprotected flow. And between the web server and the application server, also one unprotected flow. So what means unprotected? We can select the flows we want to see. Unprotected means there is no user-defined rule that allows a specific flow in the network. Blocked flows, we have a rule that allows block these as appropriate flow, and allowed flows are flows that are explicitly allowed by a specific firewall rule. So every kind of situation you can select which flows you want to see. And when we want to create a firewall rule set automatically, we go under recommendations, we start a new recommendation, then we see we want to create, for example, here a demo, we call it demo 2 as a name. Then we select the appropriate groups or VMs, so you can select VMs, you can also select groups. In this case, we have pre-created the groups, and we select the 3 groups, web, app, and DB. Then we want to say, okay, all flows of the last month. We want to inspect all traffic that we want to see, and we want also have no default rule. The rule set should be based on groups that contains VMs, so it's compute-based, not IP address sets. And we want also a layer 7 rule set, so we want to allow applications not based on ports. And we can also say, should I reuse the pre-created groups, or should we create new groups? So we say, okay, we want reuse all the groups we have, and we start the discovery. What now happens, they analyze all the flows they saw in the last month between these VMs and also external flows that come into these VMs. And because it takes around 3 to 15 minutes to do that, I have pre-created a recommendation before. And then you see, when you click on this pre-created recommendation, you see all the flows that are needed. So for example, we see here, for example, a flow between the app and the database server. We see one flow, we see, for example, another flow, and we can say, okay, right-click, show me the corresponding firewall rules. And so we created automatically a rule based on this flow between the app and the database server that allows SQL traffic. And then, when we have this, we can remove the appropriate filter to view the entire, let us say, all groups we have and that are connected to it. And then if we have all the firewall rules and we are say, okay, I have renamed the rules like I want, and I have all the rules that I need for this appropriate application, we proceed, and then we can say, okay, where I want to place this firewall rule set, this set of rules, in my firewall rule. So you see here the entire firewall rule set, so you can drag and drop the section to the place where you want to be in the firewall rule set, and then you can click publish. When it's published, it will be automatically pushed to the appropriate place in the distributed firewall, and the rules will be active. So now, when we can see the firewall rules in the distributed firewall, these rules will be active. So all the flows that are maybe allowed or disallowed will be appropriate blocked or non-blocked. So with NSX Intelligence, you see you can automatically create rules, so you don't have to do all the things manually. And even, for example, if there is a group not existing for specific VMs, we make a suggestion, here's a group 1, we put the web servers in, or a group 2, there's the application server in, so you can rename it as you want, depending on your what you prefer. So, how you can get NSX intelligence? In the past, VMware was criticized for, hey, when I want to buy NSX, there's a whole editions with a lot of features, I don't need it. I only want to do microsegmentation. Okay, when we want to do microsegmentation, we need the distributed firewall, NSX intelligence, and log insight. So we created new editions for NSX to make it easier for customers to buy it. So, for example, NSX Distributed Firewall Edition only contains these 3 things: distributed firewall, NSX intelligence, and log insight. Then we have another edition with distributed IDS IPS inside, and the 3rd edition, NSX Distributed Firewall with advanced threat prevention, and there you have the full security stack. So these editions are already out, you can buy it by now. And if you are an existing NSX customer, you may have NSX Enterprise Plus. And in NSX Enterprise Plus, there is the usage right to use NSX Intelligence, Log Insight, and Distributed Firewall. Take a picture if you want, no problem. And even if you're not sure which kind of situation you have I already maybe a license or not for NSX Intelligence? No problem. Where there's an upgrade path for every situation where you are in your journey of NSX. And the distributed switch is always included. If you buy the license and you don't have the distributed switch in your vSphere standard, whatever you have, no problem, distributed switch is included in this license to make it, let us say, working. So, then I'm done. If you have any questions, we can clear this offline. So, and thank you that you come.